settle your shoulders. Let the jaw unclench. Invite the breath to be slow and simple. In through the nose for 4 gentle counts. Hold for 2. Out through the mouth for 6 like you are blowing dust from an old postcard. Again. In for 4. Hold for 2. Out for 6. Feel the bed support you. Feel the blanket learn your shape. Let the day step back and wait by the door, hat in hand, polite and patient. It can pick itself up in the morning. Tonight belongs to softer things. If thoughts arrive with loud shoes, let them keep walking. You do not need to follow. If a worry taps the window, nod to it the way you nod to a passing train. Here in this hour, we are traveling slower than clocks. We are moving on the old path where pines lean in and listen. Picture a porch with a wooden rail, smoothed by many elbows. A lantern hangs from a bent nail. Its light is the color of warm honey, a small moon that does not melt. Crickets at the tempo. Somewhere nearby, a stream practices its whisper. The gravel road stretches out in a soft gray ribbon. Every stone knows a story. None of them hurry to tell it. This is a map you do not need to fold. It opens by itself when you breathe. It is the night map of a quiet town, the kind of town that remembers without reminding. It knows how to welcome without a parade. It is a place that meets you at the gate and says, "You look tired. Come sit. We kept your chair." We are not here to solve anything. We are here to listen. Lore can be loud, with heroes, alarms, and fireworks. Tonight our lore is soft. It is a thread through a sweater. It is a book spine that creaks because it is happy to see you. It is the steady work of small lights along a street. House rules for the night. Speak softly, even to yourself. Notice one extra detail in each scene, then let the rest stay fuzzy like fog. Leave things as tidy as we found them, or tidier, even if tidy means a blanket pulled up to the chin. If a mystery does not open, thank it anyway. Some doors prefer to be polite and private. If you would like more quiet journeys like this, more old maps and soft lanterns, you can return here anytime. You can follow and subscribe to these bedtime wanderings, and they will wait for you like a porch light left on. No rush. The chair will always be there. Take one more breath with the trees. In for 4. Hold for 2. Out for 6. The lantern swings once, slow as a nod. The town is ready. Let us begin. The old farmer's almanac in Gravity Falls is not printed on paper. It lives in a drawer beside a pile of stamped letters in a marble that looks like a little frozen storm. When you open the drawer, the almanac opens itself, not with words, but with smells and textures and tiny sounds. It knows the weather by what it leaves on your coat. Begin with spring, which does not always arrive when the calendar asks. Sometimes it strolls in late, carrying blueberry fog in both hands. Blueberry fog is sweet and gentle. It drapes over the fields like a scarf, and when it lifts, everyone's sleeves smell like jam. Children lick the air and swear they can taste summer already. Birds practice new songs and forget the ends, trailing off like someone who fell asleep mid-sentence. A day later, the second twilight begins its visits. Second twilight is 10 minutes long. Exactly the time it takes for a kettle to begin to sing. In second twilight, shadows do not lengthen or shrink. They rest. They stretch like cats and blink once. If you sit on the store steps and watch, and the street seems to breathe with you. The lights wait to turn on until you are ready. There is rain, of course, but it behaves like a good guest. It phones ahead. It knocks. If you are in the middle of a picnic, The thunder holds itself in the distance and says, "I can come back." Sometimes it does come back, with soft applause on the leaves, and everyone eats faster and laughs at the same time. Once the clouds forgot their order and layered themselves like cakes. The almanac remembers that afternoon by the way your sweater kept a little piece of cool in the weave, like a secret coin. Summer does not shout here. It hums. On hot days, the lake puts a cool hand on the town's forehead and says rest. There are upside-down rainbows now and then, faint and shy, as if the sky is practicing a smile in a mirror. The breeze carries cedar and sugared dust. Windows open, slowly, like eyelids. The porch fan turns even when it is off, just a little, just enough to agree with the air. Sometimes the wind learns a new song. Not a big one, nothing with drums. Just a melody that sounds like a long road seen from far away. The song slips through screen doors, curls around the legs of tables, and hides under rugs. You find it later when you sweep, and it leaves with the dust, waving at the light. At the end of the season, there is a special evening when the sun touches the ridge and leaves a copper line behind. People stand at their mailboxes and look up. They do not talk about it. They do not need to. Everyone nods at the same time. Later, the almanac keeps the copper line as a ribbon in its drawer. Autumn comes in sweater colors. It is careful with its footsteps. It knows how to fold the afternoons into neat stacks. Leaves practice landing over and over, getting it right every time. There are days when the air tastes like baked apples, even if no one is baking at all. Fence rails warm your palms. Pine cones fall like tiny stamps on the ground. Once in autumn, the town woke to warm snow. It was not a mistake. The flakes were soft and minty, a rumor made visible. They melted on cheeks and left behind a cool kiss and a memory of peppermint tea. Children gathered it in bowls and mixed it with cocoa powder and called it blizzard pudding. No one tried to save any for later. It was a gift, and gifts are better when they are used. Then winter, the hush that knows your name. Nights seem taller. The lake wears a scarf of stars and tracks cross the snow in polite lines. Nothing chases here. Everything is invited. You can hear the town thinking when it is this quiet. Radiators tell stories. Floorboards remember dances and translate them into small sighs. When the wind travels, it leaves a braid of frost on window corners like a stamp from far away. There is a week each winter when the sky keeps a secret. It hangs low, the color of felt, and everything sounds closer. Coffee tastes stronger. Old photographs come out of drawers by themselves and sit on tables like they chose to visit. People write letters with slower handwriting, like each loop holds a little warmth. The almanac knows another kind of weather too, the personal kind. It notes the day you felt brave enough to walk further than you meant, and found yourself at the edge of a field that looked like it had been ironed. It remembers the afternoon you chose to turn back early because home was tugging on your sleeve. It keeps track of whisper forecasts, likely compliments near the bakery. Chance of laughter close to the dock. High probability of kindness around the corner with the blue mailbox. There are holidays built from weather. The festival of well-timed clouds when people bring lawn chairs to the hill and clap for the sky as it shields the sun at the exact moment the ice cream might have softened too much. There is lantern drizzle night, when the town strings lights across the square and everyone's umbrellas look like galaxies. And there is the silent snow counting, when at midnight people open their windows, count the flakes for 1 minute, and send the number to the librarian who records them in pencil in a book titled things that are both small and infinite. All of this goes into the drawer. All of it lives there, in a place you cannot see, but you can feel when you pass the hallway. The almanac does not judge or correct. It does not argue with the calendar. It simply nods and writes with a quiet, graphite smile. Close the drawer. You can smell cedar and mint and warm wool. The house sighs, pleased. Outside, the streetlight has learned your breathing. It dims when you exhale. It brightens when you inhale. Across the road, a bell above a door rings once, not because anyone came in, but because it agrees with the night. Let us follow the sound. The post office in Gravity Falls hums like a friendly cat. Not loud. Not to call attention to itself. Just a steady song that says, I am awake, I am working, I am here. The building is square and sensible in the day. At midnight, it looks a little like a story with good margins. The steps are shallow, the kind you could climb without thinking. The rail is cool and smooth. When you touch the door handle, it warms as if it has been waiting in a pocket. Inside, the air smells like paper that has traveled and paper that will. Ink twine, rubber bands, and tidy naps. A bulletin board with postcards from towns that exist in maps and towns that only exist in the way someone said the word home. Someone has penned a note. If you are reading this, you arrived right on time. Behind the counter sits the night clerk. They wear soft gloves and a sweater with elbow patches and a pin shaped like a stamp that once toured the world. They do not speak loudly because envelopes prefer whispers. They slide a stack of letters from one side of the counter to the other, the way a baker might move rolls from a pan to a basket, tenderly, knowing that the crust will keep the steam in if you do not rush. Here, undeliverable letters are not thrown away. They are filed under a special category, the person who needs this. Some are addressed to that exact name. Some simply say, for when the day is heavy. The clerk opens none of them. They sort by feel, by weight, by the sound the paper makes when you tip it. There is a letter that smells like lake water, and a letter that carries the warmth of a porch between its pages. There is one with a shadow inside. When you hold it just right, the shadow looks like a hand offering you a second cup of tea. The postmarks have their own calendar. There is a quiet stamp that appears only under moonlight, a small crescent that assures the receiver, I traveled gently. Some postmarks tell you what the weather was doing when the letter left. A sprinkle of salt here for sea air. A faint dusting of flour for a message sent from a kitchen where someone was making bread and thinking of you. A ghost of pine where the sender stood just inside the tree line to write, using a stump as a desk. Ink remembers these things if you ask nicely. There is a sorting machine, but it is not the boss. It clacks and sighs in a way that sounds like lullaby percussion. It does not mind being slow. It has no hunger for speed, only a steady wish to get each letter closer to where it belongs. When a stamp leans too far, the machine nudges it back with a felt finger. No scolding. Just small correction, like adjusting a blanket. At midnight, another kind of mail arrives. These are messages people never wrote but meant to. You can hear them in the gentle creak of the floorboards. You can read them in the way the dust dances in the beam from the ceiling lamp. They sort themselves. They settle into envelopes made of patience, addressed in a hand you recognize as your own. Someday you will find one tucked into a library book or resting in your coat pocket. You will not remember how it got there. You will nod as if a future you has been passing notes to a present you, using the post office as a loyal friend. There is a shelf of wax seals with small animals pressed in. Otter for good news that wants to slide straight into the heart. Moth for soft truths that should arrive at night. Bear for promises that need hibernation before they wake fully. Deer for guidance at the crossroads, made of gentleness instead of signs. The clerk chooses with care. They do not pick the animal. The animal picks the letter by leaning ever so slightly toward the wax. A bell rings in the back. New parcels wait under a blue light that keeps them calm. One is large and light. When you put your ear to it, you hear laughter, not loud, the kind that lives between old friends. One is small and heavy, a tin of buttons from coats that have seen places, each with a different story. The clerk stamps them both and writes in pencil on the margin, "Safe journey." Every hour, on the hour, the clock coughs once, the way old clocks do when they clear their throats before speaking. It does not strike. It simply says, "I am here as well." The minute hand makes a sweet, tiny hush as it moves. If you listen closely, you will hear the letters listening too. Close to 1 o'clock, the door opens with just enough sound to prove it is honest. The librarian steps in, tucks a scarf into the crook of an elbow, and sets a parcel on the counter. It is addressed to the person who will read this next. The clerk nods. They exchange a small smile that says, "The world is big, but our part of it fits in a circle of light." The parcel is scanned by a lamp that reads the mood of a package, not its barcode. Satisfied, curious, sleepy but hopeful. The lamp purrs. The clerk stamps the top with a crescent. If you tilt your head, you can see the moon in it, the reflection of a reflection. On the way out, the librarian pauses at the bulletin board and straightens a postcard of a distant lighthouse. It lists a recipe for cocoa on the back. There is a note at the bottom. Add extra marshmallows if the night is long. The librarian smiles. The doorbell agrees. Step back into the street. The lamp outside paints the sidewalk with a soft square. Your breath makes little clouds. Across the way, the library's tall windows glow like book spines. We will follow the scarf. The library in Gravity Falls has learned to breathe. Not in a medical way, in a contented way. When you open the door, the room exhales a small cedar hello. When you walk deeper among the shelves, the air inhales, slow and steady, until the whole building and your lungs are friends. The floor is old and honest. It does not squeak to embarrass you. It announces your steps in kindly syllables. Here now, welcome. Lamps wear green shades like they share a secret. Tables are large enough for puzzles, maps, and elbows that need to carry the weight of a day while the mind wanders. In the far corner sits a globe that spins only when you ask please. The librarian keeps a pair of soft gloves in a shallow drawer. They put them on the way a baker dusts flour from their hands, gentle, practiced, happy. Books like to be handled by someone who remembers that paper was once a tree, and trees like being touched with care. A small bottle of oil sits beside the drawer to soothe tired hinges. Every hinge is in the ledger with a name, even if the name is simple. West Aisle, second from top. Names matter here, even the quiet ones. The card catalog breathes in cedar and breathes out possibilities. Its drawers open with a sigh that sounds a little like waves in a cup. Inside are the catalog cards, yes, but also pressed leaves from the town's seasons, each marked with tiny notes. Blueberry fog leaf, faintly purple at the edges. Second twilight leaf with a shadow folded into the veins. warm snow leaf curled like a sleeping hand. Some catalog cards have marginalia from readers who could not help leaving a small map for those who come after. An arrow to a paragraph that helps someone fall asleep. A sketch of a path through the north woods that looks like a piece of string. A dot beside a sentence that once made a person feel less alone. No one scolds the marginalia. The librarian treats it like a chat between friends from different years. There is a table known affectionately as the listening table. No sign declares it. You only find it when your footsteps forget how to hurry. At the listening table, books turn their pages when your breathing slows. Not before. A page will wait for you there, patient as an old dog. If your thoughts try to climb the shelves, the table reminds them that the floor is a good place too. Tonight on the listening table, a thin book lies open. Its spine is a meadow. Its words smell like pencil shavings and distant rain. It is a guide to field knots that somehow also teaches how to forgive yourself for not knowing a thing on the first try. You sit. You breathe. The page turns. Somewhere in the stacks, a window tightens against the night and then loosens, the building making itself comfortable. Shelves here enjoy having neighbors. Books nudge each other into friendships. A cookbook will move beside a book of star charts, and the next day the town discovers a recipe for constellation cookies. A collection of letters sits beside a field guide to birds, and suddenly the letters look feathery and light. The librarian does not interfere unless a shelf asks. Sometimes it does with a small, polite creak that means, could we switch places for a while? Yes, of course. The cart arrives. Books ride it like a parade float, proud and calm. Children's books sleep in a nook shaped like a den. They make a soft rustle when someone tells a joke nearby, like leaves laughing. The atlas section smells faintly of peppermint because someone stored a scarf there in winter. The poetry section has a chair that fits exactly one reader, one blanket, and one cat who believes in commas. No one knows where the cat lives. It appears when punctuation needs company. There is a room at the back called Special Collections. Not because the books are rare, though some are. Because the subjects are. Here live the town's hand-copied almanacs, a ledger of lantern drizzles, a catalog of fence post patterns that the postal carrier swears are a code for kindness. Here also rests a binder labeled undeliverable, a loan from the post office, with photocopies of letters addressed to the person who needs this. They are blank, of course. But when you hold the pages, you feel as if someone just put a warm mug in your hands. On the wall, framed under glass that does not glare, is a map of the library as drawn by a child with 3 crayons. The map is surprisingly accurate. It labels the listening table with a heart. It marks the place where the sun lands at exactly 4 in the winter, a bright rectangle on the floor that children use as a stage for very slow shows. It shows the window that lets in the sound of the lake when the wind wears a certain hat. Once an hour, the lights remember to be gentle and dim themselves as if they are thinking. In that softer shade, you notice small things. A bookmark shaped like a pine needle, slid between pages that discuss patience. A pencil with the bite marks of a writer who was kind to their own uncertainty. A folded note tucked into a thick history that simply says, "Keep going, you are doing fine." The librarian moves through the room like a footnote. Important, but not loud. They carry a tray with 2 mugs and a little jar of honey. They leave 1 mug near the atlas in case a traveler arrives by memory. They leave the other near the listening table in case you forgot to ask for warmth. You wander the stacks. A book leans toward you. Its title is simple, Mending. You take it down. It falls open to a page that lists all the small things you can fix with thread, glue, a kind word or time, hems, handles, hurts, hopes. You read the list like a poem. A page later, there is a drawing of a jar labeled Borrowed Light. Instructions for refilling it are scrawled in the margin. Stand by a window during second twilight and breathe. Near closing, the librarian sets a small wooden sign by the door that reads, "We are never really closed." The books do not mind the night. They like to talk to each other when the lamps are out. Stories compare notes. Facts lull fiction to sleep with lists, which are just stories that got their hair cut short. You place Mending on the cart. You tuck the field knot guide back onto the shelf. You feel taller in a way measuring tapes cannot see. On your way out, the librarian gives you a nod that says the town is softer because you are here. It is not flattery. It is a true thing spoken kindly. Outside, the street looks washed and calm. The post office across the way glows like someone left the kettle on low. Beyond it, the road smooths into a path that slips between pines. The map you carry is not made of paper. It is made of breath and cedar and the feeling of being expected. We will follow the path as it narrows. We will listen to the needles underfoot tell us we chose well. The night is not empty. It is full of places that remember you. In for 4, hold for 2, out for 6. The lantern light leans forward, patient as dawn. The map is not in a book. It is in a pocket, soft as a handkerchief that has learned the shape of your palm. When you unfold it, it does not crackle like paper. It hushes, like a curtain parting for a kind performance. This is the town's way of telling you where to go without telling you what to do. Cartography here is not a list of orders. It is a set of invitations. Begin with a line that wavers through the pines. It is not the shortest path, only the gentlest. If you are tired, this line shortens by itself, the way a friend will walk you to the door instead of to the corner. If you are curious, the line lengthens, the way a story adds one more detail when it sees you smiling. A compass sits on the stump beside the trailhead. It is small and patient. It has 3 customs you may borrow. First, breathe in for 4 counts while the needle calms. Second, ask the moss which way is kinder, not which way is faster. Third, do not say yes twice in a row without a breath between. A single yes can be a rush. 2 yeses with a breath is a promise. The path curls past the bent nail gate. No one knows who bent the nail. The gate refuses to squeal even though it could. It opens for everyone, but it opens most quietly for those who arrive without hurry. The bottle tree stands beyond the curve, each bottle turned into a small bell by the wind. Green has the note of a meadow at noon. Brown rings like fresh bread leaving an oven. Cobalt sings like the lake before a storm that changes its mind and goes around you instead. People tuck wishes into the bottles and never break them to check. The music tells them enough. Past the bottle tree is the coyote weather vane, mounted on a post that leans toward good stories. The coyote does not point toward north or south. It points toward people who have time to listen. You will know the direction because your shoes will slow on their own. Paths in these woods keep a courteous distance from one another. They never cross in a way that makes you choose between friends. If 2 trails meet, they bow. If 3 arrive at once, They set out a stump and let you sit while they decide among themselves who will speak first. There are footnotes on the map written in a tidy hand, pencil smudged by many thumbs. If you see the stump with a notch, put your worry in the notch. It will keep it while you walk and return it smaller. The creek braids here. Watch how the water teaches argument. It splits and then finds itself again. There is a patch of sunlight that tastes like lemon in late afternoon. Do not try to jar it. Come back tomorrow. On a clear night, you can climb the old mill and look down. The streets form constellations if you soften your gaze. Every intersection is a star that has learned patience. If you trace them with your finger in the air, you will sketch the ladle of late returns, the cozy chair, the 2 lanterns, the door that remembers your knock. None of these constellations appear in other skies. They do not need to. They live exactly where they belong. A margin note says, "Carry a small piece of chalk." It is not for drawing arrows. It is for writing thank you on a rock when the hill flattens to let you breathe. The hill will see it later, and it will feel seen. Sometimes the path edges have tiny cairns, 2 or 3 stones high. They are not warnings. They are applause. They tell you someone else came this way and thought the view was kind enough to mark. The map's legend is made of weather. Dotted line soft breeze that agrees with your hair. Dashed line scent of cedar and pocket crumbs. Solid line sure foot, sure heart, gentle grade. Spirals pause here. The earth is telling a long story in small words. The trail passes a place where the grass remembers deer and does not stand up right away after they have left. It is not fear. It is respect. You step wider so as not to ask the grass to work twice. A wooden arrow points toward the overlook. It has no letters. The arrow simply leans the way a friend tilts their chin. Below the overlook, the town rests like a sleeping book. Roofs make the chapters. Smoke curls from a chimney like a footnote. Somewhere a porch light promises to stay awake until everyone is home. The map's edges curl toward a small square drawn in careful lines. A label in that neat pencil. Museum of Lost and Found Things. A path leads there, paved with footprints that never hurry. You fold the map once, twice, listening to the hush between creases. Follow the hush. It always knows the door. The museum is small enough to miss if you are thinking about something else, and impossible to miss if you are thinking about nothing at all. It sits between a barber shop that knows your middle name and a bakery that remembers your birthday whether you told it or not. A bell above the door rings once. Not because someone installed it to ring, because it likes to agree with arrivals. Inside, the air is cool, like a pocket where someone kept a coin and they meant to give away. Glass cases make small lakes of light. Labels are written in pencil, letters round and hopeful. Button, likely from a brave shirt. The button is blue-gray with a tiny scratch that looks like a path to a front door. The card says, "Found on the sidewalk after a job interview, turned in with a smile. Key with no lock but many friends. A brass key with a smoothed head." The card says, "Brings out the stories in other keys. Will not open doors but will get you invited in." Handkerchief that caught the first big cry and lived. Washed, folded, the edges puckered with age. The card says, "Donor requested it sit where light is soft. Marble storm inside. When you hold it, the cloud has weather." The card says, "Do not shake. Respect the climate. Pocket lint, important day." A small tuft of gray that refuses to be swept. The card says, "Collected after a walk that changed everything. gentle object. Please do not laugh. There is a jar labeled borrowed time. Inside are slips of paper with minutes written on them in careful script. People leave minutes they found in waiting rooms and pick up one or two when they need to make a phone call without worrying the soup will burn. The jar never empties. Time likes being treated with manners. On a shelf sits a row of lunchboxes, all donated by people who once left them on buses, benches, roof edges. They're empty now, clean and quiet. If you open one, it smells faintly of a good day, the kind where your sandwich is the exact shape of your appetite. There's a case devoted to single earrings that learn to be sufficient. Their partners are not missing. Their partners are out being themselves. Each earring has a story from a day it went alone to something and was still enough. The caretaker moves through the room with a key ring that does not jingle, because keys are heavy with memory, and you do not need to remind them. They wear a sweater with 2 elbow patches, because elbows deserve encouragement. Their voice is the sound of a page turned in a book you love. "Welcome," the caretaker says, not too loud, not too soft. "Found anything lately?" You think for a moment. A coin in the laundry. A note in a pocket. Your own calm between breaths. You nod. "Take your time," they say. Everything here knows how to wait. At the back of the museum is a small diorama. A kitchen table with a ring from a tea mug, a chair pulled out just enough for someone to sit and change their mind. The caption reads, "Site of a decision, no plaque necessary." You stand longer than you expect. The diorama is small and the feeling is large. You are careful not to bump the glass. Lights dim the way lamps do when they consider the hour. The caretaker leads a bedtime tour, a habit learned from someone who never forgot to tuck in the day. They stop at a display of maps drawn by children and leave a piece of chalk in a dish, so the maps can make notes while we sleep. They stop at a stand of umbrellas and drape a towel just so. They like to feel dry even if they cannot. They stop at the jar of borrowed time and add 1 minute that clinks softly, a sound like a shy thank you. At the very end, a door opens at the side, not the front. It leads to a small corridor, lit by a sign that spells snack. The letters smell like cinnamon. The caretaker nods to you the way someone nods to a friend heading home by a good route. The corridor widens. The air warms. You can hear a cheerful clatter like spoons remembering jokes. The sign now reads, Mystery Shack, Snack Bar. The arrow points the way your hunger already knows to go. The counter is polished by elbows that arrived with stories and left with quiet. The stools spin only if you ask them nicely, and even then, they stop at the exact angle that faces the person you most want to hear. A chalkboard menu leans above the register, handwriting rounded, doodles dancing, gnome cones, sprinkles shaped like polite mushrooms, multi-bear muffins, 1 berry for every good memory that visited today. Shapeshifter swirl, looks different every time, tastes like relief. Pine needle, tea, citrus whisper, forest thank you, night shift, cocoa, 2 marshmallows by default, more if you are learning a new thing. Sue's has a rule that lives in the lower corner of the board, underlined ones. More marshmallows solves 9 out of 10 problems. The 10th needs a walk. There's a jar by the register that says broken cookies, and beneath it, in smaller letters, which are still cookies. People tip in stories instead of coins. The jar cannot tell on you. It holds your tale for 12 hours and then converts it into sugar for the next batch. You slide onto a stool. The counter is warm with recent cups. The person behind the counter has a towel over the shoulder and a kindness in their eyebrows. Late, they ask? Not as a question, more as a recognition. Late, you agree. Cocoa arrives in a mug with a chip that looks like a map of a peninsula you might visit someday. Steam makes a halo you do not need to deserve. You blow with the gentle confidence of someone cooling something important. The snack bar has its own rituals. People write affirmations on the chalkboard around the menu, small sentences that tug the corners of your mouth. You did enough for one Wednesday. Refills for good listeners. Remember, the street's soft light is doing its best. After closing, the chalkboard erases itself except for one sentence that remains. No one knows how it chooses. It is always the one someone needed to read tomorrow. On the wall is a framed napkin with a recipe for the night shift cocoa. It reads like a poem. Warm the milk until it remembers summer. Add the chocolate like you are telling it a secret. Count marshmallows backward from the number of things you forgave today. Stir clockwise for comfort, counterclockwise for courage. Pinch of salt for the tears you kept or let go. Serve to the person in front of you as if they were your future self. A teenager at the end of the counter is repairing a neon letter that has decided to flicker only when no one is looking. They hum as they work, the way people do when their hands are sure. An older couple share a plate of fries and stories that do not need much detail because the pauses carry most of the meaning. Above the back door hangs a string of small pennants, each made from a different napkin. Each is dated in pencil. The dates are not holidays. They are evenings when someone stayed until they felt steady enough to go. A window booth faces the arcade, which glows like a constellation that forgot to be shy. You can see pixelated stars, pinball comets, skee-ball moons. Now and then, laughter arrives at the window and taps like a moth, sees the cocoa and decides to stay. The counter person leans their elbows near yours. This place, they say, nodding at the room as a whole, is really just a big kettle. We keep things warm until the night is done with them. You nod. Your mug agrees by fogging the rim. On the way out, you pass the bulletin board by the door. It is cluttered with hand-drawn flyers, handwritten thank you notes, a map to the library's listening table. Someone has pinned a picture of a trail with a caption, "Shortcut for heavy days." Someone else drew a tiny arrow to the picture and wrote, "Also a long cut for good sunsets." The arcade's glow leans a little brighter, like a cat rolling onto its side to ask you to stay. The door between the snack bar and the arcade has a handle that never sticks and a scuff that looks like a smile. You wipe a cocoa mustache from your lip. You push the door with the gentleness reserved for sleeping babies and very good days. The arcade is not loud at night. It hums like a chorus of friendly refrigerators, rhythmic and sure. Cabinets blink in slower patterns like houses on a hill winking to one another. High scores are carved with kindness. Not just initials, but small notes. Left this for you. Beat me gently. Take your time. Beside one high score is a doodle of a star with a bandage on it. Someone must have saved the score after it fell. Tokens live in a glass cylinder that never empties because people return tokens whether or not they played. The cylinder is etched with small waves that make the tokens look like they are swimming. You take one. It is cool and certain. Games here have their own bedtime. The pinball machine stretches its springs, yawns in flippers, and dreams of multi-ball comets. The driving game slows its demo track so the cars can see the scenery they usually rush by. A claw machine gives itself private pep talks about grasping gently. The skee-ball lanes whisper metrics to each other like old athletes telling stories. 8 in a row tonight. Good arc, sweet release. There is a rumor about a game that invites you inside. Not to keep you, to hide and seek with you. It only opens if you promise to be home by dawn. The promise is not binding because of rules. It is binding because you want to keep it. The rumor says the game shows you places that feel like you belong there without trying. It shows you a bench where you already left a book you meant to give someone. It shows you a field where the wind already knows your name. When the clock is kind, the game lets you win by noticing the small difference between almost and enough. A teenager with a jangling keyring takes a turn at the oldest machine. They play with the reverence you give a recipe from a grandmother's drawer. Their laugh is a small sparkler that never needs a match. A parent with a sleeping child on their shoulder wins a small stuffed animal without looking. They give it to a nearby stranger who needed an impossible thing to happen today. The stranger says, "Thank you." The parent says, "Of course." The child dreams of winning something they cannot quite describe. Arcade air smells like popcorn that knew when to stop and the metal of spare change. A broom leans against a corner, worn but proud, the way tools get when they are used with gratitude. On the back wall hangs a poster that reads, "You can continue. No timer counts down. No coins fall." It is a statement, not a demand. A cabinet in the corner lacks a screen. It is a wooden box with a slot and a single dial. The label says, "Good fortune, not your future." You turn the dial to the speed of your breath. A card slides out. "Take the long way home tonight. The streetlight wants to tell you a story." You pocket the card with a token you did not spend and a napkin with a cocoa fingerprint. You promise not to wash until morning. The token feels heavy enough to matter and light enough to carry. On glass reflections, you see the tree line outside. The forest looks like it put on a jacket of pixels for the night. The door lets the glow follow you into the quiet. You hold it open a second longer than necessary for the sake of anything that wants to slip through. The path outside is the one that runs along the fence with the nails that make music if you trail a stick. You find a small branch that fits your hand. You tap the fence nails gently on your way past. They answer back like tiny, happy bells. Beyond the arcade lights, the forest edge looks close enough to trust. Somewhere not far, something small is tidying its home and humming. You match its rhythm without trying. The night is not emptier now, it is full in a different key. You breathe with it, in for 4, hold for 2, out for 6. The pines lean in, eavesdropping on your calm. A path opens where the underbrush steps aside. You follow the opening. It has the manners of a good host. It has the curiosity of a good friend. This is not a bestiary. It is a neighbor list. The difference is how you hold it. Gnomes off duty. When they are not performing, gnomes are tidy in the ways that matter and gloriously relaxed in the ways that do not. They water mushrooms with teacups and talk about the weather like it is a friend who sometimes forgets birthdays, but always shows up when you really need help moving a couch. If you see a circle of newly combed moss, someone had a meeting there and decided the agenda was done. Rules of courtesy. Do not pick up a gnome without permission, even if they are very pick-upable. Compliment their hats the way you compliment a painting. Mention the shape, the shade, and the feeling. If they offer you beet jam, accept and be honest. If you love it, say so. If you do not, Ask for a smaller spoonful next time and bring biscuits. The multi-bear, evening playlists. He does not roar at night. He curates. He selects music that holds the day's edges together so they do not fray in your sleep. Sometimes it is a slow guitar that sounds like pine needles changing their minds about falling. Sometimes it is a cello that sounds like the lake turning over in its bed. And on very rare evenings, he plays silence, and everyone understands this is the most skillful choice. Rules of courtesy. Thank him by humming on your walk home. Do not startle him with applause. Nod at the tree trunks instead. If you bring a snack, label it clearly. For sharing or for you, no sharing. Clarity is kind. Candy monsters, sugar fast. When they commit to a sugar fast, they are philosophers. They sit in a circle and discuss whether a peppermint leaf counts as dessert if it grows on a bush. They learn tea. They become connoisseurs of steam. They listen to soup cool and swear they can hear it, choose its final temperature. Rules of courtesy. Do not crinkle wrappers within earshot. If you must pass with a lollipop, wrap it in a handkerchief. The sound, not the sugar, is the problem. Praise their patience the way you would praise someone's garden, specifically and with awe. The deer with many glances, crossing guard. This deer learned to look at once in 3 directions: where you are, where you came from, and where you mean to be. She stands at the edge of the road at dawn and dusk and makes eye contact that says, "I see you, and I mean you, no trouble." Cars slow because they feel included in the conversation. Rules of courtesy. If you must cross, match her pace. If you are late, let the lateness be late with you. Do not hand it to anyone else. Leave an apple under the elm with the knot shaped like a wink. Shapeshifter. Off the clock. Left alone, the shapeshifter chooses cozy, ordinary forms. A couch that fits 3 in a dog, a cardigan in a color that flatters most, a lamp that never glares. When uncertain, it becomes a jigsaw puzzle with half the edges already found. If you help with one piece and then stop, it is grateful. If you try to finish the puzzle for it, it gets shy and becomes a stack of magazines until the room settles. Rules of courtesy. Ask, do you want company or a witness? And accept either answer as perfect. Do not say, be yourself to a being whose self is more than one thing. Say, be at ease. If it borrows your voice to rehearse something, lend it without charge and take it back gently. Lucky omens, deer, nails, lanterns. And they are not superstitions. They are relationships. The deer with many glances, the fence nails that sing, the lantern that always lights on the second try. They are the town's way of saying, we are in this with you. Rules of courtesy. Treat omens like neighbors who baked extra. You do not owe them a pie in return. You owe them a moment of your attention and a promise to pass the kindness along when it is your turn in the kitchen. Arcade spirits. Pixel hush. When the machine sleeps, something like dust, but sweeter, drifts through the room. It is made of victories that did not need to be recorded and losses that turned into jokes before anyone got home. It follows people to the sidewalk and keeps their pockets from feeling empty. Rules of courtesy. If you find a token on the ground after midnight, return it to the cylinder as if it were a baby bird. If the poster reads, you can continue, say thank you out loud. It likes to be heard once each night by one person. Porch cats. Punctuation. They appear while you read and nap in the commas. They do not belong to anyone, and they belong to everyone. They prefer laps that respect semicolons, pauses that connect rather than stop. Rules of courtesy. Ignore first, admire second, invite never. Extend a finger like a hyphen. Let them decide whether your sentence needs them. River lights, returners. On certain nights, faint lights drift low over the creek. Not will-o-wisps, not warnings. They are the sighs the water kept for people who are too busy to exhale. The creek sends them back when it thinks you are ready. Rules of courtesy. If a light hovers near you, breathe. Do not catch it. It is already yours. Say, "I know," and the light will nod and continue. Kind giants, you have met them. They look like people who know where the toolbox is and also where the tissues are. They lift heavy things with care and are not embarrassed to be gentle. They keep roofs patched and eyes soft. Rules of courtesy. Ask them to show you how to do the thing, not to do it for you. Learn one knot, one recipe, one repair. Return the favor by bringing cold water when the day is hot. This field guide is not complete. It never will be. Creatures do not prefer being listed. They prefer being met. At the back of the guide, a final note in the tidy pencil hand. Politeness is the town's first language. Speak it even when you are alone. The pines understand it. The night translates. You close the guide. The path back is easy to find. Not because you are done. Because the town knows the way you like to go. Up ahead, the fence nails wait for your stick. Beyond them, the arcade's glow has dimmed to embers. At the corner, the snack bar's chalkboard holds one sentence for morning. You cannot read it yet. That is the gift. Gifts are better unwrapped slowly. Breathe in for 4. Hold for 2. Out for 6. The map folds itself in your pocket. The museum bell remembers your hello. The library's shelves breathe you back onto the street. And somewhere close by, the deer with many glances looks in 3 directions at once and nods, satisfied. You came through kindly. You can rest now. The album is not hidden. It lives where albums like to live, on a shelf that remembers birthdays and rainy afternoons. Its spine is scuffed in friendly places as though the book has learned how to smile without opening. When you lift it, the weight is right. Not heavy like a secret. Heavy like a quilt. The first page is breakfast. Sun on the table in square patches. Bowls that do not match but do not mind. Toast leaning against toast like elbows. A jar of jam with a spoon that refuses to sink. Someone's laugh spilled and dried there long ago. The stain looks like a little map of the lake. Turn the page. A sweater mends itself under patient hands, needle in, needle out. A rhythm that could rock a boat. On the arm of the chair, a sleeping cat punctuates the afternoon with commas. Mabel's stickers line the margin, stars with faces, hearts with socks on. In the corner, Dipper has drawn an arrow toward a sunbeam and labeled it, "Evidence of good weather indoors." Next page, shoes by the door. 4 pairs, then 2, then 4 again. Mud dried into polite outlines. No one is in a rush to sweep. A note stuck to the jam. Back before the kettle sings. The kettle always keeps its promises. Here is a picture of light on a wall. Nothing else. No faces, no hands, just a rectangle of afternoon climbing toward evening. Someone kept this because the light looked like a door opening from the future into the living room. Underneath, in tidy pencil, Ford has written, "Angle of comfort, 32 degrees." A page with boat paint under nails. Oh, sleeves rolled. A hat that does more listening than shade-making. The brush glides with the tenderness of someone fixing an apology rather than making one. Stan has written across the margin in big, bluff letters. 2 coats indestructible. 3 coats bragging rights. Later someone softer added, dry time story time. There is a picture of a board game that never finished because nobody wanted it to. Tokens tilt as if mid-sentence. Cards fan out like a yawn. On a post-it that clings to the board's edge. Reminder, the winner brings snacks tomorrow. The post-it is dated 3 summers in a row. The rule stuck better than glue. Flip. A stack of sweaters folded into a landscape of hills. One sleeve has a frayed cuff. A safety pin holds the day together and looks proud about it. Mabel's caption reads, "Fray future character. No one disagrees." A photo of silence. You can see it. The way chairs sit a little closer than they did. The way dust hangs without worry. Silence here is not absence. It is a blanket. Someone has written, "We shared this," and circled nothing in particular. The next page belongs to radio nights. We will go there soon. A lamp with a green shade glows like a secret that enjoys telling itself softly. Hands hold mugs. Feet negotiate for room under the table without trouble. The radio dial shows a station that translates to "close enough to hear." Turn to a picture of the porch rail at dusk. Elbows, always elbows, learning the wood by heart. The lantern has just woken. You can tell by the way the flame leans like a person deciding where to sit. On the far right, a sweater sleeve bears 3 glitter specks. They will be there forever. Glitter knows how to outlast storms. Here is one of the calmest pages in the world. A list written on a grocery envelope. Eggs, flour, new deck of cards, 1 long walk, spare batteries, call tomorrow. The last 2 items are checked. The first 3 are not. That is how priorities should work sometimes. A Polaroid of an empty couch with an indented cushion. If you look long enough, you remember who just stood up to get more tea. If you look longer, you become that person and return with the tea. Someone has captioned it, "Intermission." You pause at a photo that was clearly taken in a hurry and kept slowly. A blur of sweater, a half smile in the border, a hand you can't place. It should be nothing. It is everything. The caption is 1 word, enough. At the back, slipped into a pocket, a paper leaf pressed between wax sheets. Its veins are a map you already walked without knowing it. On the leaf in tiny script is written, "We were here. We rested well." You close the album. It does not close fully, the way certain doors at kind houses never latch. It wants to be opened again soon. It knows it will be. Breathe in for 4. Hold for 2. Out for 6. The photo of the radio glows a little, as if the lamp in it heard your breath. Let's turn the real dial. The station lives where late cups, steam, and socks find their best selves. It is not tall or grand. It is a cleft-shaped room above the hardware store near the nail aisle, where things learn how to hold together. The on-air bulb is the gentlest red you've ever seen. It doesn't shout quiet. It sighs, "Come in softly." A voice you know without knowing welcomes the town, like a librarian greeting raincoats. Good evening, night shift hearts and wide-awake windows. You're tuned to 88.7, the knotted string between us. Pages rustle. The script, perhaps, but you suspect half the show is improvisation with manners. Dedications roll in like drowsy waves. To the person stacking tomorrow's bread at the bakery, the smell is already a poem. To the bus driver who knows when not to speak, you are fluent in silences. To the porch cat with the left ear nick, the comma placement tonight was impeccable. There is a number station, if you can call it that, tucked at the hour's edge. It reads, not coordinates, but knitting instructions. Cast on 12, knit 5, pearl dreaming, turn hopewise, repeat until warmer. The needles in living rooms across town nod and continue, the way oars do when the lake is calm. A phone line crackles to life, someone calling from a kitchen where the light over the sink is the most honest thing they own. "Can you play the sound of soup?" they ask. "We can do better," the host says. "You listen, we'll wait." A minute passes with a pot's quiet chatter bubbling through the airwaves. "Incredible," the caller whispers. "We agree," says the host. The station has never been wrong about soup. On certain nights, a guest meteor visits. You can hear the low hum of wonder as it leans near the microphone, stardust translating itself into patience. Listeners phone in with questions like weather vanes. How do you not burn out? How do you leave a trail without making anyone nervous? The meteor answers in verse you feel more than understand. Travel with your edges rounded. Fall where someone is ready to make a wish. Midway, the host reads small classifieds that are not about buying or selling. Lost, Tuesday afternoon courage. If found, please leave it on the hook by the blue door. It knows that place. Found one laugh in the cereal aisle. Claim with a story. Any story. Offered 2 spare hugs, unbreakable, good through first frost. Music on this station is unhurried and well-behaved. It is a promise that the next note will not startle you. Sometimes it's a guitar that knows how kitchens feel at 9 p.m. Sometimes it's a piano that remembers bare feet on a cool floor. Once it was 3 notes of a harmonica followed by the sound of the lake deciding to turn over. People called in weeping, the kind of tears that leave no mess. Good tears, tidying tears. Between tracks, the host offers weather for insides. Tonight, blankets likely, with scattered pages that turn themselves. Winds from the west, carrying the scent of pencil shavings and new plans. Chance of a dream you will remember in the morning, percentage variable depending on cocoa levels. There is a crate with postcards beside the mic. Listeners write from down the street and far beyond the hills. Each card bears the same return address, in earshot. The host reads a few, always with a gratitude that sounds like a hand that rests on a shoulder. Before sign-off, there is a segment called Borrowed Light. The host says, "If you have a spare minute of calm, hold it up. Someone in town is looking your way. They will take what you can spare and return it at dawn, Fuller." The station goes quiet for 10 counts. Somehow the quiet grows warm across the county lines. The on-air bulb dims like a sunset behind eyelids. Good night, porch watchers and page turners. Keep the kettle honest. We'll be here when the moon clocks in again. The red light winks its soft punctuation mark. A door opens to the stairwell. You can smell the nail aisle below, the scent of things that plan to last. Outside, the dock waits with its steady planks and rope that has always known what to do. We take the stairs down in the steps that sound like home, home, home. The lake wears a shawl of stars and a habit of listening. It has no desire to see a splash tonight. It wants the kind of movement that makes even the fish agree. The dock greets your feet with the comfortable conversation of boards that remember last summer's sandals. Each plank is a page. Together they are a book about arrivals that didn't rush and departures that promised to return. On a post hangs a ring of dock knots, labeled in pencil and patience. Kind hitch holds firm until you change your mind. Mender's bend turns 2 tired ropes into 1 rested line. Neighbor's loop, strong enough to trust, loose enough to share. The logbook lies open in a dry box, corners softened by gentle thumbs. The entries are voyages you could take on a long exhale. 7:04 p.m. paddled until the oar agreed with the water. 8:12 p.m. saw 3 lanterns on shore. All of them meant me well. 9:30 p.m. drifted near the reeds. Heard a chorus practicing the key of almost asleep. You copy the cadence without copying the words. Your pen knows what to say. Every ink has heard this lake before. Boat etiquette is posted on a plank set at eye level. Share the silence as if it were bread. Wake small. Wave to everything that can wave back, including loons, porch lights, and luck. If someone asks for a hand, give them 2 and keep one on the dock. You push off. The boat does not announce it. It simply remembers that water is a kind of road. The oars kiss without splashing, a ritual older than chores. Lake air tastes of cedar and faint vanilla, as if someone baked a cake a mile away and left the window open for you. Fish hum. You knew this. You forgot. You knew again. Their bodies sing the bass line of the place. The old foundation, the dragonflies, skate on top like pianists with skates for shoes. Somewhere a frog considers a sonnet and decides against it. He prefers haiku. Halfway out, you rest the oars. Rest is a direction here. The lake rotates slightly, a slow carousel of stars and pine perfume. In the distance, a small lighthouse blinks. I see you. I am not impatient. You retrieve a tin from your pocket, salt crackers and a wedge of something that likes to be cut with a pocket knife. You eat in 2s, 1 for you, 1 for the night. Even in the dark, you do not miss your mouth. The boat rocks its approval, never once threatening to tip. Some nights, the lake tells stories in circles. Your bow points to the same tree twice. The stars repeat themselves like the best part of a song. This is not lostness, this is rehearsal. You learn the line you want to speak tomorrow when the morning asks you to. On your way back, your oars find a tempo that could be written down as kindness. You catch your reflection riding alongside you, happier than it was, not by much, not by fireworks, but by a stitch. Stitches are what hold quilts. You are becoming one. The dock receives you as though it had been waiting with a towel. It had. Someone left one folded on the cleat, a terry-cloth moon, a promise of warm shoulders. A little thermos waits beside it, still hot enough to steam in the cool air. No note. It does not need one. The town writes its name in gestures. You sit with your feet on the last plank, toes dangling over the first black sip of water. The thermos pours the sound of rain on a roof you trust. You drink the sound before the tea. From here you can see morning. It is not an edge yet. It is a rumor. There is time to return the towel to its peg and the thermos to the shelf inside the boathouse, where all borrowed things spend the night telling each other how kind you are. On the path back toward the square, someone has chalked a small arrow near the ground. Repair day. You follow with your shoulders already lighter. The town is awake early when mending is on the calendar. Needles sing. Kettles plan their chorus. The bell above the door knows it will ring for gratitude and nothing else. We'll walk there now, slow as glue drying. Morning comes on purpose. It spreads itself across tabletops, finds the loose screws, and kisses them on the head. The square has rearranged itself for the work. Tables line the bricks. Each table knows a specialty, the way people know how to hold a baby. Some are for stitching, some for gluing, some for, tell me the whole story first. A sign at the edge reads, bring what frayed while you were busy being brave. Underneath, smaller letters add, no rush, tea first. A kettle patrols the perimeter, steam is lighthouse. Cups cluster near napkins with pencil diagrams. Patches shaped like leaves, patches shaped like islands, patches that do not try to hide what they are. Someone has written, "Visible mending is a kind of brag," and no one crosses it out. The bell above the door to the general store rings with each arrival, but only once per person, as though to say, "Noted, welcome, that's enough." It is not counting, it is greeting. At the stitching table, sleeves confess. Elbows are reintroduced to themselves under tidy sashiko. A small hole in a knee becomes a star. A larger hole becomes a window with curtains. Someone's grandmother used to say, "Warmth leaks out through apologies," and everyone laughs the soft laugh that means they're keeping that line forever. Across the way, a glue table reconstructs the world in tiny cures. Handle to mug, ear to toy rabbit, corner to frame, patience to patience. The glue smells faintly of citrus and certainty. One jar bears a label, "For stories that broke where they were weakest." A hand beside it squeezes another hand. The fix sets faster that way. Ketchup bottles are refilled at a card table manned by two teenagers trading badges. Most improved listener. Champion of cleaning the micro. Oops, it's clean now. They pour with the focus of surgeons and the banter of siblings. In the ledger they write, "Ketchup 7 full, 3 partial, 1 new because someone used the last of it and put it back in the fridge without saying anything." They add a heart because the ledger likes it. Curb chalk arrows guide folks toward free lemonade, the color of soft intentions. Each cup is the same because fairness tastes best in a row. A sign hangs from the jug. Take 2 if you are fixing something for someone else. People take one and then another, slowly, as if seconds can be as reverent as firsts. There is a table where tomorrow's to-do lists can be written in a pencil and left in a tray labeled "Not Yet." The lists sit there like kittens, all ears. They are collected at sunset and delivered back to their authors, who discovered that somehow half of each list is already done by the day itself. Days here like to contribute. A mending bell, different from the doorbell, hangs from a string between 2 poles. When a repair finishes, the bell rings one bright note. No applause. The note is enough. It tells the town that something has been returned to usefulness. Usefulness is this place's favorite compliment. Sometimes, while a fix sets, people share instructions they wish came with certain afternoons. One card reads, "Wednesday, 3:15. If breathing feels like climbing, sit near a window and count the sparrows on the wire. If there are no sparrows, be all the sparrows yourself." Another reads, "Sunday, 10 o'clock a.m. If the sunlight through the blinds makes stripes on the floor, step into them and become a zebra for exactly 9 seconds." An older neighbor sharpens kitchen knives along the edge of a story. He tells how he learned to listen from a radio voice that once taught him the weather for insides. He gifts that habit forward every time a blade meets the stone. Sparks are little yeses. Children operate a stand called compliments newly polished. They accept dull compliments and return them shiny. Nice shirt becomes, "That color makes your eyes look like they have their own weather." Good job becomes, "You kept going when it got boring." That's rare. People bring mistakes to the square, too, the kind that do not fit on tables. There is room for those. They go to the bench under the elm that winks. Someone sits with them, not to fix, not to advise, just to look at the same leaf and name the green together. Often that is the whole repair. By late afternoon, the town pulls up a chair for itself. You can feel it. Streets looser, windows content, lampposts with the posture of folks who did something worth doing. The bell above the door rings one last time as if to say, "We'll tidy the rest in the morning." Everyone writes tomorrow's list in pencil and puts it in the not yet tray. The tray purrs. No one is surprised. You walk home with a sleeve mended and a cup rinsed for reuse, and a thought that is not yet a thought, but might be tomorrow. The porch light reads your face and warms up a notch. Evening leans in, brushing pine against sky. You have one more stop, just inside, where the lamp with the green shade considers the hour and votes for cozy. Let's go there. Set the album back where albums know they are loved. Lay the mended sweater across the chair's arm like a cat that trusts you. Return the thermos to its hook, the towel to its peg, the borrowed minute to the jar where minutes multiply politely. The lantern on the porch is not hurrying you. It is doing what lanterns do when endings and beginnings are the same door. It glows at the exact strength of a friendly heartbeat. Breathe with the town once more. In for 4. Through the trees that stretched all day and are now content to be tall. Hold for 2. Let the quiet rest its chin on your shoulder. Out for 6. Send the day downriver with a thank you note pinned to its sleeve. Listen. The radio upstairs signs off and becomes a window. The dock lies down to dream of buoyant things. The arcade hums a lullaby for pixels that earn their sleep. The post office purrs letters into envelopes made of tomorrow. The library exhales cedar and keeps watch on the listening table until morning discovers your place and turns the page. Across the ridge, the deer with many glances checks all directions one last time and nods, as if to certify the night's safety. In the sky, the meteor that answered questions earlier leaves a faint path, a dotted line toward whatever you meant to remember and might now. We did not solve every mystery. We were never going to. We did something else. We set the mysteries down on a soft surface and tucked a blanket over their feet. Not knowing can be a kindness when you are tired. There is a chair beside the door that was empty when you left. It is not empty now. It holds the shape of your return like dough that rises properly. On the table, the map you carried folds itself smaller and smaller until it becomes a pine needle. Tomorrow the tree will take it back and say, "Thank you for the tour." If you need more quiet journeys, the path will remember you. No signpost required. And just the sound your breath makes when it forgives the day for being imperfect and thanks it for being yours. The lantern will stay on while you fall asleep. Not bright, not brave, just present. It knows its job. The pines lean in as if to hear your last waking thought. They do not mind if it is small. Small thoughts are good pillows. Close your eyes. Let the town hold your keys for the night. Let the water rock your borrowed weight. Let the shelves breathe you into dreams where every page turns itself at the exact right time. In for 4. Hold for 2. Out for 6. Welcome home. We'll leave the lantern on. Sleep well.